the turn of the millennium, the smartphone as we know it today barely existed, but two companies were already laying the groundwork for what was to come. Nokia, the Finnish mobile phone giant, dominated the early smartphone landscape with its Symbian operating system, while BlackBerry, made by the Canadian company then known as Research in Motion, carved out a fiercely loyal following among business professionals thanks to its physical keyboard and secure email system. By the third quarter of 2007, Nokia's grip on the global smartphone market had reached an almost unbelievable 48.7%, more than every single competitor combined. That same year, however, Steve Jobs had just walked on stage to unveil the first iPhone, and though few people realized it at the time, the entire industry was about to be turned completely upside down. By 2009, Nokia's share had already begun slipping even as it still led the market at around 40%, with BlackBerry holding roughly 20% and Apple's iPhone, still only 2 years old, sitting in a distant but rapidly growing third place. The device that would truly reshape everything arrived quietly in the background. Google's Android operating system, which accounted for barely 2 or 3% of the market at the start of 2009, but was about to become the industry's dominant platform. Nokia's decline over the following few years was nothing short of stunning. By 2011, the company that had once commanded half the planet's smartphones was announcing a desperate pivot to Microsoft's Windows Phone software, and by late 2012, its market share had crumbled to just 3.5%. Samsung seized the moment, becoming the world's leading smartphone vendor in 2012, and building on that lead through the following year. BlackBerry's decline followed a similar painful arc, its once unassailable keyboard and security advantage rendered largely obsolete by touchscreens, and the company would eventually cease developing new BlackBerry devices entirely by 2016. Meanwhile, an entirely new wave of Chinese manufacturers began climbing the rankings throughout the 2010s. Xiaomi exploded onto the global top 5 by 2014, while Oppo and Vivo built dominant positions first within China and then increasingly around the world. Huawei's trajectory became the single most dramatic story of the entire decade. The company steadily grew its global share throughout the late 2010s, briefly overtaking Apple in 2019, and then, astonishingly, overtook both Apple and Samsung combined to lead the entire global smartphone market for 1 quarter in 2020. That triumph proved to be shockingly short-lived. United States trade sanctions cut off Huawei's access to critical chips and Google's services almost immediately afterward, and the company vanished from the global top 5 within less than a year, one of the fastest falls from the very top that any major technology company has ever experienced. By the mid-2020s, Samsung and Apple had settled into a genuine, ongoing near tie for the global lead, each typically holding somewhere between 18 and 20% of the market, depending on the season. But look at the bigger picture, and something remarkable stands out. Chinese manufacturers, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, Honor, and Transsion combined, now control roughly 40 to 45% of the entire global smartphone market, genuinely more than Samsung and Apple hold together, even though neither Samsung nor Apple has ever lost its individual grip on the very top spot.